Hello and welcome to this week's class on alignment. Alignment is crucial for core function and also for muscle function in general. When we are not stacked, muscles will either be elongated or shortened, tight or weak, and our body won't be able to function optimally. So finding our neutral spine, finding a neutral alignment allows our muscles and our core to work properly. We're going to get started looking at your feet. Come to standing, and I want you to stand how you would normally stand. You're going to look at your feet. Look at where the direction of your foot goes as you stand. Do your feet splay outward? Does one go straight, the other comes out? Do you scrunch your toes? Do you stand with uneven weight? Do you stand with your feet rolled inwards? Do you stand with your feet rolled outwards? These are all different compensation patterns, and ideally your feet will be pointed straight in line with your hips. Your toes will be on the ground. You'll be able to feel your big toe. You'll be able to feel the balls of your feet. You'll be able to feel your arches. You'll be able to feel the outer edge of your foot, and you'll be able to feel your heels on the ground. We want your foot to be on the ground. We want all points of contact on the ground. Now, if you're worried that you're not really feeling your arch on the ground, you just want to make sure that you can feel some of the arch while maintaining the outer edge on the ground as well. So you don't really, again, we don't want to stand inwards. We want to feel all edges of your foot on the ground. Making sure that your feet are properly on the ground in alignment will help to start getting the rest of your body aligned from the ground up. Now that we've found our foot placement on the ground, we want to now think about our hip placement and where our body center of gravity is. So typically, people tend to lean forward. Sometimes people tend to lean backwards on their heels. We want to find neutral, so we want to find that balance of forward and backwards and just come to where you feel your feet flat on the ground. So you may have to maybe just shift your hips back slightly. If it's too far back, you might feel your toes coming off the ground, so you don't want that. Okay, so find that center where your feet feel balanced on the ground. Now we want to think about where our hips are. You can have different types of hip positioning. So one could be an anterior pelvic tilt. You can see that my hips are tipping forward. You could be in neutral. You could also be tucked under. You could have a hip hike on either side. So again, finding your feet flat on the ground, finding those points of contact, the big toe, the arches, the sides of your feet, and your heels, making sure those are on the ground. Now, to find your neutral pelvis, you want to take your one hand and find the top of this hip crest. Then you're going to walk it down and find a bony knob or a bony prominence called the ASIS. You're going to put your finger there. Then you're going to take your other hand and find the edge of your pubic bone. So when looking for a neutral pelvis, you want these fingers to be in line. If I had a line that I drew from finger to finger, it would be straight diagonal. You don't want your hips to be tipping forward and this finger to be under this finger. You don't want your pubic bone finger to be above, and you don't want it to be under, like I said before. You want to find that neutral pelvis. So right here is about neutral. I have a small curve in my back. It's not exaggerated, and it's not non-existent. So once you find your neutral pelvis, then you can think about your rib cage. So again, we're looking for a neutral alignment. We're looking for things to be balanced and to be stacked. So again, typically, a lot of times we tend to thrust our rib cage. So because of our society, the way we live, a lot of times we're hunched over like this. And if someone says, oh, stand up straight, what do? we thrust our shoulders back and thrust our rib cages out. So if you're standing like this, what you want to do is gently relax that rib cage down so that it is stacked right over your pelvis. You don't want it to be tucked completely, gripped right through here. We don't want this to be an ab workout per se, though you might feel some tension as you relax them down. So we're not gripping them, we're just relaxing your rib cage down so that it's stacked. Now, once we found that stacked rib cage and pelvis, then we just want to look at our upper body. So picture someone having a string at the top of your head and they're just lifting you up slightly. So you're just standing nice and tall, ribs are relaxed down, pelvis is still in neutral, and then you want to look at your ears and your shoulders, and are they stacked over one another? So you're not looking like this, you're not way back here, just finding that neutral balance. And then are your shoulders stacked over your rib cage and your hips? And this is a neutral pelvis. You can practice this just standing, being aware of where your pelvis is, where your rib cage are, where your shoulders are, where your ears are. And another really great time to practice this is when you're brushing your teeth. So typically we tend to round and spit our toothpaste out. Instead, try this today. Think about sending your hips back, keeping that neutral pelvis, keeping your ribs relaxed down, still thinking that there's a string at the top of your head that is pulling you, and then lean over like this. I still have a neutral spine, I have a small curve in my back, and then spit my toothpaste out, and then stand back up, finding that neutral alignment again.